If you go back and you ask the question, did we always know there was going to be a vaccine? The answer is absolutely yes. When you already say the vaccine has to win, you're not going to consider a treatment, you're not going to consider any other protocol, it has to be a vaccine. Then what you have to do is violate the antitrust laws of the United States and the competitiveness laws of Europe. Because what you have to do is you have to suppress all alternatives. Because under the 2005 PrEP Act, the only way to get an emergency use authorization of a medical countermeasure is to prove that there are no meaningful alternatives. But here's where they screwed up. In 2016 and 2017, the CDC and the FDA collaborated on a standard document for what a vaccine clinical trial was supposed to do. And this was actually a very traditional definition of vaccine. And for some reason, in the spring of 2020, we did two things. One is we changed the goalposts. We said a vaccine had nothing to do with transmission or infection. It had to do with, allegedly, the reduction of hospitalization or the severity of disease after the second injection. That already violates everything about what a vaccine clinical trial was based on their own published rules. This is not Dave Martin's opinion. Their published rules. And you start going, okay, hold on a minute. So we changed what the definition of a vaccine was. We mislabeled it. This, by the way, is a clear and compelling Federal Trade Commission deceptive medical practices case, because you should actually hold the entirety of the system liable for lying to the public about even what the thing is. Up until April of 2020, both at BioNTech and at Moderna, it said that mRNA injections were, and I'm quoting from the financial statements, experimental gene therapies, classified as such by the FDA. Not kind of. That's where they were classified. Now, people say, Dave, don't say experimental gene therapies. I'm not. I'm reading it from their SEC filings, in their 10Ks and in their 10Q filings with the SEC. That's not my opinion. It's their words. But if you actually told the public, hey, guys, we'd like you to take an experimental gene therapy, you know what would happen? Everybody would say, hell no. But if you actually say, well, we're going to call it a vaccine, which, by the way, never, ever has there been a change in the legal definition of what a vaccine is. So we change, allegedly, what we mean when we say vaccination to mean it might help you not be as sick, which, by the way, there was no basis for that assumption. We have no evidence of it. And then you go back and you say, well, in the clinical trial, we also are not going to say that you actually are immunized until 14 days after the second injection, which is really interesting. You realize then that all of a sudden, all of the cases of COVID in 2020 are actually people in the clinical trials. But they weren't immunized until after the second injection. So they were considered unvaccinated when they had adverse events like death, like anaphylaxis, like all the things you expect inside of the post-14-day injection period of time. And many people say, well, yeah, but those aren't really adverse events because according to the adverse event thing, you can't count on those things. Well, that's because in 2018, the definition clearly of the adverse event following immunization, which is an officially legally defined term, that term was changed to mean the only thing that can be counted as an adverse event. And by the way, this is one where if you go look it up, it's bone-chilling to hear what I'm saying. They changed the definition of an adverse event to be only a thing that the literature had already shown as potentially caused by the injection. Now let's stop and unpack that for a minute. If in 2018 we changed the definition of adverse event following immunization, and we change it so the only thing that can be counted is a thing that's already published in the literature as a potential adverse event, and then we use an agent that has never been used, what did we just do? We created an environment in which the manufacturers could lie, telling the legal truth.